Hi everyone! In this video we will factor a trinomial with a equals 1. Factor c squared minus 18c plus 80. This is a trinomial with a equaling 1 because the number in front of the c is a 1. Even though there's nothing there, we can always put a 1 in front. To factor a trinomial with the form a equals 1, we go to our last term, c, and we factor this to find the factors that will add together or subtract together to give us the middle term. So we'll start with factoring the number 80. Starting with the number 1, we get 1 and 80, 2 and 40. 3 doesn't go into 80, but 4 does. So 4 times 20. 5 also goes into 80. 16 times. 6 does not go into 80, and 7 does not go into 80 evenly, but 8 goes into 80. 8 times 10. And 9 doesn't go into 80, and if I were to continue going, it would be 10, and 10 then moves me 10 times 8, and I start working back down the list that I already started, so I know I'm done. Now I'm going to go back and look at the signs. This last one here tells me that they are the same. If it is positive, then the factors over here will both be the same. Then I'm going to look at the other sign here, and that tells me that the same sign is going to be negative. So we can fill this in with all of our factors being negative and find the combination that gives us the number negative 18. Negative 1 minus negative 80 is negative 81. Negative 2 and negative 40 is negative 42. Negative 4 and negative 20 equal negative 24. Negative 5 and negative 16 make negative 21, and negative 8 plus negative 10 equals negative 18. Now we have the two factors that can be used to replace the middle term from our trinomial. And so we can replace it and rewrite it as c squared minus 8c minus 10c plus our final term, which is still 80. And you'll notice that we just replaced the negative 8 and negative 10, which make negative 18, for our negative 18 middle term. Now that we've done that, we can group our first two terms together and our second two terms together. Now some may ask, is it okay if I have negative 10c first and then minus 8c? It will still factor. It doesn't matter the order, both ways work. Now we look for the greatest common factor in the first two terms, which is c. And we divide it out, which leaves us inside the parentheses. C squared divided by c is c, and negative 8c divided by c is minus 8. Now the next two, negative 10c plus 80, we have a common factor of 10. And because I have a negative here, let's go ahead and pull the negative out as well. So we have negative 10 being factored out of both of those. The reason being is that when I take a negative 10 divided by negative 10, I'm left with a positive 1 times c, which makes this a positive c, and that's easier to work with. Now, positive 80 divided by negative 10 is negative 8, and you'll see that because we chose to take out a negative 10, we now have another common factor between these two larger terms. That common factor is the binomial c minus 8. When I factor it out of the first one, I'm left with c, and when I factor it out of the second one, I'm left with minus 10. We have now factored our trinomial down to two binomials, and we can check this by foiling. First, outside, inside, last. The first two terms multiplied together, c times c, is c squared. Outside, c times negative 10 is negative 10c. Inside, negative 8 times c is negative 8c, and the last two terms, negative 8 times negative 10, is positive 80. When we combine our middle two terms, we get c squared minus 18c plus 80. And the reason we combine the middle two terms is because they are like terms. They have the same variable makeup, and when I get to the end, it matches the exact original, which tells us that we did indeed factor this correctly down to the two binomials of c minus 8 times c minus 10, and we're all done.